Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.
Fraud is a continually changing crime. So those that are committing fraud are evolving it with trends on social media platforms. It evolves by the season, whether we're hitting Christmas or we're hitting summer. It evolves with tragedies and traumas that are in our community or in our country or across the world. And it's just continually adapting and changing for the purpose of gaining as many victims as possible.
This episode of Bring Back the Porch brought to you by Bernie Leahy, River Street Realty. Let's get you home. There's an old saying, a fool and his money are soon parted. And these days, there's more and more people trying to make fools out of us all. March is Fraud Prevention Month. Sadly, it's the 22nd annual Fraud Prevention Month. Joining me to help prevent us becoming fools is Sergeant Adam Gregory from the Medicine Hat Police Service. Welcome, Adam.
Hello, thank you for having me.
22 years now for Fraud Prevention Month. That in itself is kind of a sad statement because we haven't been able to squish it out. But the people who are trying to separate us from our money keep coming up with new and different ways to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fraud is one of those continually evolving crimes that is only growing bigger in nature. This is no longer a business of low level, like empty envelope deposits into a bank machine. It's now multi-billion, intercontinental organized crime. Yeah. And sadly, we're not getting better at not becoming victims.
Yeah. The people who are looking to separate us from our money, though, they're coming up with new and different ways every day. And it is harder to recognize when it might be a potential fraud.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. Fraud is a continually changing crime. So those that are committing fraud are evolving it with trends on social media platforms. It evolves by the season, whether we're hitting Christmas or we're hitting summer. It evolves with tragedies and traumas that are in our community or in our country or across the world. And it's just continually adapting and changing for the purpose of gaining as many victims as possible. And they'll prey on our emotions, they'll prey on our beliefs, and just anything in order to make us lose our hard-earned money.
There is another old saying that a sucker is born every minute. And I guess that's why fraudsters continue to be successful, is because somebody always thinks that, this is a way to, get around the system, or something sounds too easy, too good to be true. It usually is.
Oh, it's like you read my tips already. That's definitely one of them. If something's too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah, interesting with your quotes there. Another thing I've often heard is that, fraud, those people that are victims of fraud, it should be common sense. Unfortunately, all three of our kind of sayings and quotes just aren't realistic anymore. Mm-hmm. Fraud doesn't just affect seniors. It doesn't just affect kids, or if we're male or female or born in Canada or not born in Canada. As long as we have access to communicate and we have money that we can get rid of, we are all potentially victims of fraud.
And the sad part about it is that there's many people who are victims that don't come forward because they're ashamed that they got caught. That's
a great point. I've looked at our statistics through the Medicine Hat Police Service and just in our city over the last 4 years, and each year we're losing, $2 to $4 million in fraud, and that's only what's reported. And I completely agree with you. I think that word shame is a big reason for non-reporting. I think there's many, many frauds that are not reported, and it may simply be because if someone lost a few $100s, they're writing it off as a life lesson, or they're embarrassed to say that this happened to them. But that should really change. We need to report, we need to gather the data and the information to help lead us, not just within Medicine Hat, but as a country, to try to catch these people that are doing this highly organized crime.
If somebody is a victim and they come forward, are they going to become a public statistic? Is their example going to be used, or is it just a tool that you can use to follow the threads and maybe catch the bad guys?
Yeah, I think the first part of that is, we want to investigate the crime that's been committed against the person. So gathering the information will allow us to conduct an investigation. Sadly, with fraud, and if we talk numbers later, our ability to solve fraud is very, very difficult. It's different if someone's committing fraud in our community and they're showing up at our house, or they're coming to collect money from us, or sell us an item in person. That gives police an opportunity to investigate, find an actual criminal. More so, the problem is when our money is being sent through the internet or through cryptocurrency or gift cards or e-transfers or in any digital way, and it's out of the country. It becomes so hard for us to investigate. At that point, I think our next goal is to gather the information. So although I may not gather information about an organized fraud ring happening in, pick a country, Italy, it doesn't mean that the information I gather isn't important. And when it gets collected by larger agencies across Canada and it's put together, it may give enough information for police in other countries to actually do an investigation. It doesn't mean we'll get our money back, but hopefully we can hold those accountable that are doing it.
And you can prevent someone else from being a victim.
Absolutely. Yeah, this you'll probably hear me say it, but I'll get right to it. The number one, fraud is changing continually, but our tactics to not become victims don't change for any of them. The number one way we prevent fraud is by communicating with each other. So if we are put in a situation that we're not certain about, talking to someone we trust, whether it's a neighbor, our kids, our parents, the police, someone in our workplace, running that situation by them is the number one way to defeat fraud. And it will work nearly every time. So again, that common sense idea, when we're in the middle of it and we have some pressures and we have timelines and we're worried about a loved one and we're trying to get money out and resolve problems or not have a warrant issued for our arrest. We have that pressure. So we might not have that common sense. We might not be thinking clearly. But when we run it by somebody that's not in the middle of it, they can help us resolve it.
And those fraudsters are counting on you not sharing what is happening.
Absolutely. To the extent that they may ask you to keep it secret. And that should be a huge red flag. Anytime, what do we tell our kids? Right? Yep. We tell our kids if there's ever an adult or anyone asking them somewhere to keep something secret, hey, you got to come tell us. And very much so is the same with fraud. If we hear anybody asking us to send them money or put something in a secret parcel and they're asking us to just keep it secret, to protect whatever their storyline is, then that has to be a red flag that, hey, why is this secret? Should it be secret?
Yeah. I have a friend, recently I received an email from asking me if I knew anything about buying e-gift cards online. I thought, well, that sounds, like my friend would ask that question. So I replied, well, a little bit, but why are you asking? Well, I need to buy one for a friend, but I don't know how to do it. If you buy it for me, I'll send you the money.
Sure.
Okay. Can you call me? Was my reply. Well, I'm in Mexico right now, and, the service isn't all that great. And I said, I'll get back to you. So then I did call my friend, and, of course, it was somebody had hacked into the email, which created a whole new different set of problems for this person.
Yes.
But there was more than one of us because they got into the email, and they sent that out to I don't know how many people. But that was just one little one. But the red flags went up for me when that person couldn't talk to me on the phone.
Yeah. That communication piece, right? Yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about the grandparent scam, but I have a few things to tell you on your example there for sure. When is hacking happen? Absolutely, it does. And suddenly they have 400 contacts that they can send the same message out to, and if 5 of them respond and they just need $100 each, there's $500 with very minimal work. Yeah. That idea of doing our own research, slowing things down, and actually speaking to the person that's reaching out to us or that we're worried about can make a huge difference. And it can become a headache where if we are hacked, it's not the end of the world. We just have to make some phone calls, take some time, and get things fixed.
So how do we keep ourselves safe?
Yeah, well, I think, again, the number one thing that we talked again about is we need to communicate with each other. If we ever feel that somebody is calling us and they are putting pressure on us to pay for something, to send them money in any manner, normal, legitimate businesses or government agencies or police are not going to put pressure on us and timelines on us to get things done now. Further, they won't ask us to keep it secret. They won't be asking, or they won't be getting frustrated or mad at us if we want to ask questions. Most legitimate places encourage you to have questions. They're either A, seeking our business, or B, trying to resolve something. And the questions are wanted. So I think those are some of the main things that we can do to keep ourselves safe.
You talk about the grandparents scam. That is one that really tears at the heartstrings because you want to help those you were in the other generation, but what do we watch for?
Yeah, so the grandparent scam, I don't really love the title of it, to be honest, because as I said to you earlier, everybody can be a victim of fraud, right? And that grandparent scam, as long as we have someone we care about in our lives, and we can be tricked, and we can become a victim of it. Ultimately, this fraud is based around somebody reaching out to us, either posing as police or something to do in the legal justice system, or as a family member and reaching out saying, hey, Grandpa. The response is usually like, oh, is this Daniel? Yes, it is. At that point, the pitch and the story is going to be that I'm in trouble and I need some money sent to me and something bad has happened to me. I've been arrested. I need bail money. I need something along those lines in order to keep me safe. And it has to happen by 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. So now we have an emotional connection. We want to help our family members. We have a timeline. And at some point, the story also comes out like, can you please not tell anybody else because this is embarrassing to me, or I'll be shamed publicly or with our family. So you add that secrecy on top of it. And everybody has family secrets, like it or not. And we do what we can to keep our family safe. So the best thing here, and that idea of communicating with one another, will stop the grandparent scheme every single time. If we hang up that phone and we contact our family member that we think is needing that money, they're likely going to answer the phone and say, well, no, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, no, I'm at work stocking shelves like I always am on a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah. People might say, well, you would recognize the voice of your grandchild.
We think we're smart, don't we?
Oh, technology is one step ahead of you.
Yeah, so two things, I guess, on that. We do like to think that we can recognize voices, just like we like to think that what we see with our own eyes is exactly what happened. Many times, police get to investigate something, and they may have 4 or 5 witnesses all watch the same incident and all have different versions of what they saw or what happened. We're not experts on voice, and especially if it's not someone that we don't see every single day and there's a little bit of separation there, that becomes difficult. And I imagine you're talking about artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah, it's insidious.
Yeah, and sadly, it's something that we're going to have to grow with. So, with the use of AI in fraud, it's going to make things much more difficult for us. But again, we just need to slow down, communicate with each other. Same rules apply. Let's remove those pressures, slow down those timelines, do our own research. And ask lots of questions. So the videos and the sounds, I've heard people talk before about the use of artificial intelligence to copy somebody's voice to reach out to commit a fraud against somebody. I haven't seen that personally yet. Okay. But does it happen? Absolutely. I'm sure it does. Yeah.
I have seen on social media videos of famous people exhorting me to invest in cryptocurrency or a product or whatever. And it is becoming almost impossible for me to tell the difference. Although, because I can't figure out why this person would be involved in this in the first place, so I just on to the next thing. But there are people, I'm sure, that are getting hooked on that.
Absolutely. It would be wonderful if the Prime Minister actually told us to invest money and it worked out, right?
I've seen that one. Mm-hmm.
But again, yeah, that's there's so many different applications we can use now just to play with AI, and it's amazing what it does. It shows us doing things we didn't do, or people saying things that they didn't say. Absolutely, everything that's used for a positive reason can be turned and used for a negative reason. So it really makes us have to be cautious. But the rules don't change. No. We can do our own research. You know that idea that you said, if something's too good to be true? There are no free buttons or free links on the internet that are going to give us free money, just like there's no way to invest $100 and make $1 million by tomorrow.
Yeah.
that idea of what you talked about in your email with your friend, that was a version of mass marketing. And mass marketing or phishing is when a fraudster is just putting a whole bunch of information out there to millions of emails or millions of text messages and hoping that somebody bites on it, sorry. Very similar to what these AI videos are doing. They see a video, maybe they build some trust or some rapport because they know that person or they're a political figure or a famous person, and they're hoping that the potential victims take that first step towards making themselves victims. When we take that first step, we're much more likely to follow through with it. So if I get someone call me and ask me to send them $500 in cryptocurrency, I might just be like, well, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But if I see a sign that says, hey, invest now and make lots of money by next week, and I'm like, yeah, I could use that, especially if our economy is struggling. And we take more risks to try to make our situations better.
Yeah. What are the top frauds that you've seen here in Medicine Hat?
Yeah, so fraud is tricky. There are so many frauds, and I initially was going to tell you about the top one or two, but I'll probably get through a few if I can.
Okay, yeah.
I think the most impactful or financially devastating one is currently investment frauds. So these are where we become victims typically through mass marketing. And I guess a good question that I'm always asked is how do fraudsters contact us? Any way we communicate. So if it can be by texts, it can be by phone calls, it can be through email, it can be through ads on the internet, it can be through social media. Investment fraud is one where we see an opportunity and we may even think we're doing our own research, but we're going to respond to one of these things in hopes to make money. The trick with investing is that if you don't trust who you're giving your money to, or you don't know them, or you don't see them, or you're not sitting in the business with them, we have to be very, very cautious where we're putting our money. I think the biggest thing in this investment kind of fraud world is that it often hits people that have some money to invest. So if it came my way, I might not have a lot of money to
They're
invest.
out of luck when they come to me.
Yeah, that cryptocurrency idea isn't up my alley. But for someone might have $100,000 they're looking to invest. Now they become one victim of one fraud with a loss of $1 million. We need to be really careful when we hear investments and cryptocurrency. To really understand cryptocurrency, people have to do a lot of research and wrap their heads around it. This type of currency was created without, or for the purpose of not having restrictions and conditions. And often what happens is if we're engaged in a fraud, as soon as we put that money into a cryptocurrency deposit machine, it is gone. Yeah. I know the physical money is still in that machine, but it's been transferred into a wallet that exists literally anywhere in the world. And Adam Gregory from the Medicine Hat Police Service is not going to be able to do a search warrant in New Zealand to obtain that $100,000. It is, whether it's $100 or $1 million, it's gone. Yeah. So that's our biggest financial loss. I think another important one to talk about is kind of like that government agency frauds. Okay. So if you've ever, especially, and this is one that changes over the year, but when we're in tax time, right? So this might be when the fake Canada Revenue Agency might start reaching out to people. Especially to normal citizens that have paid their taxes regularly for 40 years. And suddenly they start receiving calls saying, hey, this is the Canada Revenue Agency. You didn't pay your taxes last year on time, and a warrant's going to be issued for your arrest if you don't pay that $400. So for the typical law-abiding person, this is concerning. They don't want to be arrested. They might have the funds. They want to solve their taxes, and they might engage in that fraud, right? It doesn't have to just be the CRA. There's things like the Canadian Border Services Agency, mostly like Christmas or times when we're sending parcels. I know in my life there's always a parcel coming to our house, right? No matter what. And this might be typical of, hey, we have your parcel at the border and we can release it with a $2 fee, right? You just need the $2 and can we get your credit card? The fraud isn't in the $2 there. It's just to obtain your credit card number and use everywhere on the internet until it gets locked. Yeah. I think with these government agencies, or even political parties might reach out for things like this. I think, the red flags we have to pay attention to is no government agency, no police officer, the CRA, the CBSA, political parties are not going to ask for payment or donations in gift cards or cryptocurrency. They're just not going to. We can't pay our utilities with gift cards. When we hear those things, we need to be really, really cautious. Gift cards have their place. They're for when we're giving someone a gift, but they're definitely not for payment of any kind of bill or fee.
And we're not going to give a gift to a fraudster.
No, let's try not to. Yeah, unfortunately we do, but and it's so quick. Those gift card numbers on the back, when we give it to somebody by a text message or on the internet, it's plugged in and spent and gone. And again, just like I talked about with the cryptocurrency, when it's in that machine or it's into the internet and used, I'm not getting it back.
Yeah.
Just not.
I think recently the Medicine Hat City Police Service had to issue a warning about people trying to collect traffic fines in Medicine Hat.
Oh, I actually think I got that email at one point. Yeah, there was I don't know if I saw the Medicine Hat one, but I definitely saw the Alberta government one that came out. And you click on the link that they sent you saying you owe this $25 in parking fees and just add your credit card here to pay it. Yeah, interesting, right? It's never ending, and it changes by the day. I think we talked about the grandparent scam's pretty good. Maybe something I didn't mention there, not so much in the government ones or investment frauds, but sometimes in grandparent schemes, people will be asked to send money in secret parcels. I think even from when I was a kid, I remember not sending money through the mail. I think as soon as we hear secret again, whether it's us keeping it a secret or putting it in a secret parcel, we don't want to do that. I've seen $10,000 sent in a shoebox, right? It's unfortunate. And I'm sure as soon as we hit send or we put it in the mail, we're like, oh, wait a minute. It doesn't seem right. I've seen maybe one more I'll just mention to you real quick. And there's others too, but we'll see where we go. But I've seen quite a few things where victims end up having their devices controlled by someone. So if you've ever worked in a company that has like a information technology section, and we have something wrong with our network computer, we might reach out to them and they will plug in on their end, and you'll see the mouse move on the computer, right? And they'll take over that computer to fix the issue. Similarly, we're seeing some of this with people on their phones, where they're opening an email and then opening a link of something that they didn't know that email, or they didn't. They probably should never have opened the email, let alone click on a link that they didn't know. And that link may be titled something that makes sense to us, but really what it's doing in the background is giving permission for whoever's on the other end to go into our devices. And once into our devices, it gives them access to everything, and we'll see e-transfers or money being sent that way. So
So there's a red flag there.
Absolutely. If someone has control of our device, then quickly we need to, honestly, the number one step is get to your bank. E-transfers are difficult things to pull back, but sometimes it's possible. If you can get to your bank quickly, you can shut off your phone, get to your bank, notify them. They may be able to freeze your account and take that money back quickly. And then come report it to us. Obviously, we want to know about these things. And again, collect the information, hopefully hold someone accountable at some point.
Is the Nigerian scam still out there? That was a famous one back in the 90s. You'd get a fax from somebody in Nigeria that had to move like $6 million out of the country and needed your help. I haven't heard about that one lately.
Yeah, I think it just has different titles now, where it's it might be a relative died in another country that you didn't know of, and they left you an inheritance of $7 million, and all you need to do is send $200 to the collection agency or to pay a release fee. I have seen, an Egyptian king one, and similarly, it'll just bounce between whatever country and whatever storyline they can spin together. But I haven't seen that one much recently.
Well, maybe we put the end of that one.
Maybe it'll just change and become something new.
Fraudsters like to prey on those who are lonely. Relationship can be a way for someone to get you to give them some money, and they keep you stringing you along to keep you giving them more money.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one. I know relationship scams, I think I like that title more than frauds. Sometimes this is a fraud, sometimes it's not. The reason often that people are getting into these type of online relationships is because something's missing in their life. They're looking for companionship, they're looking for communication, and it's devastating. It's not devastating they're looking for those things, it's devastating when they find out that it wasn't heartfelt and real.
Yeah.
So the tricky part comes with these is when that person that we think we've established rapport with and we're building a relationship with, starts asking us for money for a purpose. And typically the purpose will be emotional or sensitive, whether it's a loved one's sick and they need it for medical care, or they need it to make a down payment on a flight ticket to come see them. And people send that money and then find out that it fell through, or it didn't work, or it was used for something that they didn't intend it for. The difficult part with the fraud, with the crime side, is that the person still intended to send that other person the money. So it becomes difficult to investigate. And as we've talked about through some of these other frauds, it's typically sent out of country. A police officer in Medicine Hat and in Alberta, we do have police that are policed across Canada, but as soon as we start crossing borders, it becomes very, very difficult to recover money. So I think people just need to be cautious with those relationships we're building online, and be aware of if someone's asking us for money, are we making this choice that we understand the money may be gone if we send it, and are we okay with losing this for what we hope to gain?
Yeah. Marketplace is
Yes.
a place where people buy and sell. I'm always leery, though, about, getting involved in something on Marketplace. Should I be afraid of that?
Well, and I like that you brought up fear. We don't have to be fearful of communicating with people or answering emails. We just have to be cautious. Now, online marketplaces, whether it's Kijiji or Facebook or the variety of other ones that are out there, we do need to be cautious again. There are steps we can take, though, to protect ourselves. So one of the big ones is the idea of down payments or full payments before we see or get the product. Years ago, down payments were probably commonplace for when we were ordering something. There's really no need for them now. The world has become smaller with the internet, with the sale of items. And if we miss out on, a good deal today, we're going to be able to find just as a good deal on a similar product tomorrow. So that's one of my tips, is ultimately no down payments unless it's to a person we know or a company that we trust, and that's how we operate. Many of the frauds on these marketplaces are put out for an item, and that is the fraud. It is just collecting the down payment. So selling a $50,000 vehicle for $30,000, and of course lots of people are interested in it, and they just need that $200 down payment sent to them to hold it so you can come see it. The fraud's committed as soon as you send the $200. But the fraudster is collecting that from 30 people that have found this, and eventually it gets flagged on that site and it's taken down. Often, marketplace frauds are finding legitimate ads and legitimate pictures, and they're copying all those and creating new ads and just changing the email address or changing the phone number for contact. And that's how it's done. What some people may or may not know, like in Medicine Hat, right at the front of the Medicine Hat Police Service, we have a safe exchange location. And this location allows buyers or sellers to meet the other party right in front of the police service with a recorded area. So I like to think that, I shouldn't say I like to think, I believe most people going there, if they're both choosing to go there, are probably legitimate buyers and sellers. And those that don't want to be video recorded by the police engaging in some type of fraud, most of them won't show up. So no down payments, come to somewhere where we can collect some data and provide you some safety.
Hey, another fraud that I have read about is rental property, where someone is advertising an apartment, and you send me the deposit or whatever, and then it's yours. But again, how many other people are in on that?
I feel like you're going down my mental list of frauds. So yeah, that's an interesting one. What's really, and similar to Marketplace, this is how these are done. So they're often stolen advertisements of places that can be rented out or purchased, but rented out typically. And these can trend before college starts or when there's a bunch of people that are going to move into our community. And yeah, the goal there is completely the damage deposit or the first month's rent. And so similarly, the person looking to rent something will find an ad online. They'll reach out to the person. They'll come up with an agreement. And the fraudster will probably be overly accommodating in hopes to get whatever money they're willing to give. So maybe they're not willing to give the first month's deposit, but yes, I'll send you the damage deposit until I see you. And the problem becomes twofold here, because not only are we out our money when we, show up at a U-Haul on August 30th to go to college, we show up at a U-Haul and walk up to the front door of the place we've rented only for a family to answer and say, I'm sorry, I've lived here for 6 months. Yeah. And you've been frauded. Now we have nowhere to live. But yes, absolutely, they happen. So again, down payments, sending money to someone we don't know, we have to, just like buying a vacuum or an item, let's go see the item and exchange the money properly.
Okay. Anything else we haven't touched on?
Oh, I could probably keep going for a long, long time. There's one more kind of interesting thing a couple I'd like to tell you about, I guess. There's, in the world now of people getting jobs online, lots of fraudster companies are out there to fake hire people as well. And part of a fraud that's emerged that I do see quite often is called like an overpayment fraud. And ultimately, this is where I hire you and, hey, thank you for working for my company. I'd like to send you a signing bonus. And it's going to be $250, and I will send it directly to you tomorrow. The problem is the next day the person receives the check, and it's not $250, it's $2,500.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so it looks good, but we, as good people and a new job, recognize it. So we call the people and tell them, hey, the numbers aren't right. And the fraudster will respond to us that, oh, yes, that's just an error on our end. Go ahead and deposit that money and just send me back the extra, $2,250. And believing we have a job and believing that this is all real, we'll do that. The problem is the check bounces in 3 days. So the funds go in, check bounces in 3 days, and the bank takes that money out. But as soon as we send an e-transfer from our account to wherever we're sending this money, that was actually our money in our account, and we're out that. Yeah. So now we lose money, and we may be in some trouble with the bank until we sort it out, and we don't have a job.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one. Yeah. Identity theft, we didn't really talk about.
No, that is a big one, yeah.
And I'll maybe just talk about it briefly. The benefit of identity theft is that typically we're not out money. It is going to create headaches for us. We're going to spend 2 days on the phone with different companies, but we're not typically out funds. So remember when we had phone books?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and we'd put our name and our phone number and our address sometimes in phone books.
It's all there for everybody to see.
Yeah, we don't need to be horribly worried about our information because it's not as protected and safe as we think. We just, again, need to be cautious. When we're talking to businesses or we're talking to companies and they're asking us for certain information about ourselves, I think we need to just always be asking ourselves, well, A, does this company already have this information, or should they have it already? And B, is it relevant? So if a cell phone provider offering us a better deal on our monthly bill is asking us for our social insurance number, should that be? And if we don't recognize that in conversation, again, what should we do? Just slow it down, ask someone we trust, and they'll probably tell us, hey, that sounds like a fraud. Let's stop that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are the main frauds that I'm seeing right now.
Okay. If someone who's watching or listening would like to know a little bit more, is there a resource available to them here in Medicine Hat?
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of resources out there that we can lean on to get more information. So, of course, there's information on the Medicine Hat Police Service website. Any of the bigger police services, so Calgary Police Service or Edmonton Police Service, their websites have lots of information about fraud. The Viner Center here in Medicine Hat is a good resource for people that are, may or have become victims of fraud. As well, there's the Fraud Prevention Month is in Alberta kind of followed consistently with police agencies. So every week I'll be putting out a media release on specific topics. The topics I follow are from the Alberta Community Crime Prevention Association. And that is their website. You can go to that and gather some information from them. And then often you'll get police, if you've been a victim of a fraud, especially identity fraud, will be sending you to call the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre and Equifax to protect yourself a little bit, but their websites are good resources as well to gain information.
Okay. Well, hopefully we have armed people with some information here so that they do not become a victim of fraud.
Yeah, I think it's it's an ever-changing topic. This is organized crime in its essence. It's not going away. It evolves faster than we can respond to it. But by just following those specific kind of rules on what we should do, we can prevent it and become less victims of fraud. We don't want our money. We work so hard for our money, and to give it away to people that are using it for undoubtedly bad reasons is not what we want.
Sergeant Adam Gregory, thank you for the visit.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me here.